Hi Stonewall, I'm novi-of-arty-vid-viriji and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about main characters. A main character, or MC, or protagonist, is the lens that we view most of the stories through. We follow them throughout the entire story, whether it's in third point perspective, first point perspective, or on the rare occasions, you yourself are the protagonist in second point perspective. This isn't as common, mainly because it's hard to write, especially if you want to have some sort of reveal. It's more common in analog horror games, along with video games in general, but even then, there's always a separation between the main character and the actual player. But what is a main protagonist? A main protagonist is the force of good that is the character. Yeah, there's villain main characters or villain protagonists, but this is the person that we are trying to root for actively. Yes, there can be some reveals of, oh, the main protagonist was the bad guy the entire time, but in more cases than not, we are following a character who we should be rooting for, one way or another. And this falls into the idea of a main character and what are their character traits. I talked about in the Mary Sue video on how Ray is just barely not a Mary Sue. I'll put it up there. That it's kind of hard to have a character who has no flaws. A character having a flaw is necessary if you want someone to actually vibe with the character. Not all characters need flaws, especially if they're just trying to explain something or are in a story trying to explain something. Think about myths or tall tales. They're more insights into the culture and what they're trying to explain than actual stories in our modern day definition of it. A story where a character does not have flaws and is just trying to give a lesson is a story where the character could be replaced with anyone and it's not necessarily will change anything. Think Red Riding Hood, for example. What's more important is the lesson her story, and by extension, she is trying to give the audience, which is mostly children. Her main characteristics is that she wears a red hood, is going to her grandma's house, and she did not listen to what her mother told her. And she talked to a stranger. The story of Little Red Riding Hood is trying to warn kids about stranger danger. And if you try to take Red Riding Hood out of this context without understanding that, then you are missing the point of it. It's like trying to explain a myth with giving the characters in the myths the same moral values and connotations that we put normal day characters under. In a myth, their job is to explain the dominion and represent the dominion that they are in control of. And that's why Zeus is an arrogant king who consistently changes his temper based on the stories. He rules the sky and is a king. Both of those are very temperamental, and their personalities can vary between the two. Kings misuse their power. It's fair and simple. While Poseidon is the god of the sea. He is consistently changing and is very active in what he does. The sea is very changeable. It can be a nice, calm tide, or it could be a raging hurricane. It's consistently changing between the two extremes, and anything in between. Well, Hades is the god of the underworld. He's the king of it. He's serious and stoic. We don't see Hades in many myths because death is something that's not brought up a lot in ancient Greece. You don't want to say the name of someone affiliated with death in fear that it'll get their attention. Names have power, so don't use a name of someone you don't want to get their attention of. It's like that myth of, or kind of wives' tale of, if someone's talking about you, your ears are going to be burning or you're going to sneeze. Yeah, sure, that's a funny coincidence, but not necessarily is what's always happening. So when it comes down to trying to have a character in a story that's based off of something that's meant to explain something or give a lesson, it's kind of missing the point of that story. A character doesn't need a flaw in a story designed to tell a problem. The character flaw is going to be in designing and trying to tell the lesson. Little Red Riding Hood didn't listen to the warning that she was given, and she got in trouble. So listen and don't talk to strangers. A main character having a flaw is something that allows the character to actually feel real. If a character has no flaw, then you are missing an important trait of a character. Everyone has flaws. Yes, even you watching this video, having a flaw is normal. That's what makes you human and mortal. Having a flaw in a character is very, very, very necessary if you want someone to actually connect with said character. Not everyone's going to relate to a character, and you shouldn't try to have a character relate to everyone. If you try to have a character relate to everyone or a story be everyone's story, it's going to be no one's story and no one's character. Because too much is happening. Giving a character a flaw will actively help this. Say the character is overly loyal, or is very prideful, or is very stubborn. These are flaws, and they can be fatal ones as well. A fatal flaw is something that is very common in mythology and tall tales, like I've mentioned. In fact, most of the time, these main characters, that's the only flaw if they have one, a fatal one. For example, Daedalus was very, very prideful and arrogant. He consistently tried to show off his intelligence, and that led to him and his son being imprisoned in the labyrinth that he was forced to build. And then later, because his son, Icarus, got his exact same fatal flaw, Icarus died during their escape by flying too close to the sun and wanting to view the world from the lens of the gods. Yeah, in mythology, don't try to compare yourself to any deity or famous being. It's not going to end well for you. That's just a note. Don't be envious. Period. Don't try to do exactly as someone or be overly arrogant. Have a little bit of humility. A lot of the time, when I mentioned loyalty as a fatal flaw doesn't exactly need to be a weakness. It can also be someone's greatest strengths that, when exploited, can destroy them. A strength doesn't make you impervious. Just means that it's a shield that if someone gets around it, it can have an equally bad result. A fatal flaw can be someone's greatest strengths and weakness at the exact same time. Loyalty is not a weakness, it's a strength. But when it's exploited and used, it can destroy someone. I find that very interesting with Percy Jackson's fatal flaw being loyalty, and how in the last book, during the Battle of Manhattan, his weak point after he goes for a dip in the river Styx to become impervious is the small of his back. Meaning, oh, I love this. Meaning, to actually kill him, someone has to stab him in the back. Because his flaw is loyalty. If you are close enough to get to Percy when he's not wearing armor, to get close enough to actually stab him in the back, you are stabbing him in the back twice, literally and figuratively. It's poignant. Giving a character a fatal flaw can give them something to overcome, something that they have to grow out of. If a character's fatal flaw is pride, for example, and they consistently feel like they have to do everything themselves, they can learn to have others do their own quests or own tasks, or trust others. If their fatal flaw is that they don't trust others, they can learn to stop it. Or if their pride is that they're stubborn and don't follow orders, they can learn to trust that someone can handle it and know that they don't need to stay there and be stubborn about it. So basically, find a way for a character to overcome their fatal flaw or grow with it so they don't get exploited with it. It makes for a great way to start a character arc if you focus on their fatal flaw that they must overcome. Meanwhile, normal flaws are also necessary. Having a character be good at everything will doom your character to be a Mary Sue or Gary Sue. If a character is great at everything, then there's no point for the story to even actually be a story. It's just you showing off what character you find the best. And the audience does not like it. We've already had way too many stories with it. Stop writing them. Giving a character some flaws or things that they're not good at makes the character feel more human. Not everyone's good at everything. Not everyone is smart, handsome, courageous, and strong. Give characters other flaws, like they are very scared or fearful of something, or they consistently lie, or they are consistently getting themselves into trouble because they don't have any sort of self-preservation instinct. Let a character be flawed. And there's a difference between giving a character a personality quirk and giving them a flaw. A personality quirk is something that's a part of the character in a way of it's something that sets them apart from others. While a flaw is something that they probably need to grow and overcome in some way. A flaw is not they are unable to cook and they just are unable to burn water. They can burn water. That is not a flaw. That is a quirk. And it could be, yes, a quirk can be translated into a flaw. Like they can't cook, they are able to burn water. The flaw that they can actually have is that they are simply incompetent in some tasks, or they don't follow directions, or they act without thinking. Like they can burn water. How do you burn water? But giving a character a flaw, an actual realistic flaw that people can relate to, makes them feel like an actual person and not just a cardboard cutout of a character who the author is moving around for the story to happen. There's also situations of actually making your main character useful for the plot. If your story has a main character who can be replaced with a wet leaf and nothing changes, your character is not the main character, they're just someone who's being moved around by the plot. The plot's gonna happen, no character can escape the plot. It's going to happen no matter what. But a main character should actively be engaged, and that will engage the audience. If the main character is just being moved around by the plot, why are they specifically there? Character archetypes are also very important into building a character. For example, an archetype I like to label character as are what the heck is going on protagonist. A what the heck is going on protagonist is a character who is completely unaware of what is happening in the world or is out of their element in it. For example, a stranger in a strange world type story. Or an isekai, where a character is blown into a world some way, shape, or form that is not their own and now needs to find out how to live in it. I call them the what the heck is going on protagonists because that's something that's going to be leaving their mouth a lot. Because they don't know what's going on, and they know about as much as the audience. And more often than not, the audience knows more than the character. Harry Potter is an example of this. He is very ignorant of what the wizarding world is like, and consistently keeps getting stuff in the wizarding world mixed up with stuff that would be normal in the muggle world. Or viewing it from a very muggle-like lens because that's how he was raised. Now, what the heck is going on protagonist is only good as long as you understand that you don't need to explain everything because the protagonist is not stupid. An idiot protagonist is fun because most likely they do know how the world works. They're just an idiot for a different reason. An idiot protagonist is a character like Luffy from One Piece. He's a buffoon, an absolute idiot, a fool, if you will. He has some common sense with him. Not a lot of common sense, but he has some. His brain cells are divided between, he only has 2 brain cells, and one of them is completely devoted to becoming king of the pirates, finding more food, fun and games, adventure, friendship, and another part for becoming king of the pirates. and his other brain cell is bouncing around his head like a movie screensaver, and every single time it hits the corner, he has a thought. It doesn't happen very often, but he has his priorities, and he does know how the world works for the most part. He won't bring up something because he doesn't like to think about the past. He's focused on the present, having fun in the future. The past is in the past, there's nothing to do about it. He won't bring something up unless someone else brings it up first. And even then, he probably won't because he doesn't care. He doesn't know about any of his friends' backstories, and whenever someone's giving an exposition dump, he's either doing something else, not listening, or he's asleep and remembers absolutely nothing about it. It's not because he doesn't care, it's because it doesn't matter to him. His view on the situation won't change just because he has more information about it. When he decides he's going to beat someone up, he's going to do it. He had no context about what Crocodile was going to do. All he knew is that Crocodile had hurt his friend and is going to hurt her country. Therefore, he's going to beat Crocodile's butt. Luffy doesn't care. That's all his priorities are during the Alabasta arc. Kick Crocodile's butt. And he does. He's an idiot protagonist because he jumps into things head first with little to no context. Whenever someone's giving him very important information, we just have to hope and pray that another character is there hearing the information. There's also a protagonist who's there by accident. Harry Potter is an example of an accidental protagonist in the way of another character could have been the protagonist. In his case, Neville Longbottom. Harry was subject to a prophecy when he was born of whoever the Dark Lord picks between him and Neville is going to be the main character, basically. Now, Voldemort did not hear that part of the prophecy. All Voldemort knew is that whoever's going to destroy him is coming soon, and the parent of this kid defied him 3 times, and the kid's going to be born at the end of July. Yeah, July. That's all Voldemort knew, and he was not going to let that happen. And he, by fate, picked Harry. Neville could have been the main character. We could have had the series called Neville Longbottom. I find that way too funny. But a lot of the stuff that Harry gets himself into is not from his lack of trying to get out of it. He'll rush into danger if it involves saving his friends or family, or if he thinks someone he can help is in danger. He won't think twice about it. But he's there because other people's actions have caused him to have the consequences. He's an accidental protagonist, not in the sense of someone else could have done it better, but in the sense that he didn't necessarily need to be the one to save the day. He could have lived a normal life with his 2 parents still being alive, but the luck of the draw did not happen. And he got out without having what he originally began with. He's an amazing hero's journey protagonist because of it. He grows as a character, and he has more than one trait that backs him up as a main character. Another type of character is a character who is there because they are the one that could actually do it. The Giver's protagonist has this. Throughout the book, we have little hints that something happens when the main character is observing something, and we don't know what it is. It's described as a flicker or a flash, or something just is changed. Something's different than it was a few seconds ago. We learn later on in the book that it was color. He is one of the few people in his town that can actually see color. The Giver, much like other dystopians, main character has very few things that set them off from other characters around them. But what does is why they are the main character. He can see color and can actually view things outside of what's happening. Meanwhile, Katniss is the main character in her dystopian story for a reason of she's the one who could. Katniss did not necessarily need to be the main character, not in the accidental standpoint, but in the standpoint of storytelling in general. Katniss did not need a volunteer for Prim at the Reaping, but she did. Katniss did not need to sing to Rue as she died, but she did. Katniss did not need to do anything throughout the story, but she did. Katniss's biggest character traits that can be seen throughout the books are her care for those around her, her love for those who are in pain. She wants to help those who are in pain consistently, and she hates seeing those people in pain. It doesn't matter how well she knows them, she doesn't want them in pain. Her complete disregard for the rules that are in place. She has thought about running away from this district multiple times and is consistently breaking the rules. And her inability to listen. She does not listen. She's at her best when she's not following rules and she's not going by a script. That's why she became the Mockingjay. Because she's the thing that President Snow cannot ignore. The new Lucy Gray. If you didn't know what that part meant, go read Songbirds and Snakes. But speaking of Snow, his time as the protagonist of Hunger Games. In the prequel novel, Snow is the definition of a tragic character protagonist because we know how his story was going to end. Him becoming a tyrant. We see Snow's rise to power in the prequel novel and how he got the way he is. And his downfall in the actual main series is because of his character flaw of he will focus on a problem. And Katniss being the new Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray was Snow's love interest in the prequel novel, in the first and only, before Katniss, female District 12 tribute, who, from all intents and purposes, no longer exists because the records of that Hunger Games were destroyed. She is basically Katniss, but with a few things swapped. While Katniss was a fighter meant to perform, she was a performer made to fight. Katniss embodies so much of what Lucy Gray is. Lucy Gray did not listen. Lucy Gray disregards the rules. Lucy Gray sings to her opponent to put them to sleep during the Hunger Games. Lucy Gray is compassionate. Lucy Gray is very, very prominent and makes the attention go on to her. Katniss embodied everything Lucy Gray was, and that scared Snow to the point where that led to an inevitable destruction because he didn't see the other problems that are sprouting around him. All he could see was the Mockingjay. And it's very poetic because the last line we actually hear Lucy Gray say was that she was going to be back with Katniss. Katniss is a root is kind of like an onion root type plant, and we see this. It's kind of something that pops up throughout the book, but that's what Katniss Everdeen was named after, and that's what Lucy Gray left to go get supposedly when her and Snow were doing the whole runaway plot thing. But she said she would be back with Katniss. Snow just did not know how long it would take. Because she did come back. She did come back, and she came to destroy Snow. Well, a main character is great when they're being followed by the plot, but there's also the problem of not all main characters can do it alone, or should do it alone, because no character is good at everything. Giving a character specific things that they are good at, and reasons why they are the main character rather than other characters, is important. But what's also important to a story, and the main character at all, is the idea that there are other people around the protagonist who can do stuff as well. A protagonist does not need a hype team. They need allies. They need people who will help them beat the problem that is the plot. They need people with skills that will back them up. Like Harry and the two other members of the Golden Trio, Ron and Hermione. Ron is the loyal best friend who won't leave Harry's side, who will always be honest about a situation and point out the things that is going on that he doesn't like. He's honest and straightforward to the point of it's kind of being very rude. He is consistently the one to call out bullshit when something's happening. He is consistently there for Harry. He is the street smarts of the story. He has actual experience being in the wizarding world, while Hermione has theoretical knowledge. She is very informed about stuff because she's consistently reading and gaining more information. She's consistently looking for more stuff so that she can help them. She solves puzzles and clues. She is very consistent in her knowledge theoretically, while Harry is very practiced in what he does. He's talented in the fact that he acts consistently, while Ron is more of a strategist and his skill was chess, and Hermione's more of a researcher. Harry's more of the active force. That's why the three balance each other so thoroughly out. All three of them represent different houses in Hogwarts, rather than just their main trait of bravery. Harry's very cunning and very ambitious with what he does. He has a goal, he will go through lengths and leaps and bounds to accomplish it. He represents Slytherin in this aspect. Ron is very loyal, very hardworking, and very persistent in his actions. Hufflepuff, because of how he will stick by his friends. In the books, that is. I'm going to make a video later on on how the entire Weasley family got utterly ruined by the movies. But I'll get that to another time. While Hermione is the book smart and very intelligent member of the group. She has the most common sense out of all three of these characters and is the very first one to tell them they're doing something utterly stupid that could get them at worst that could get them killed or at worst expelled. She is Ravenclaw. She's very focused on her studies. The three of them balance each other out very well, and that's why they are the Golden Trio. Harry has other friends outside of the Golden Trio as well. And Neville, the almost main character, who is very, very dedicated to growing and improving. After book 5, he is consistently helping the game. He will actively tell his friends when they're doing something that could get them hurt very badly. He has bravery beyond his own understanding. If the three main characters of Harry Potter, the Golden Trio, represent the other Hogwarts houses, Neville represents Gryffindor as to a T. While they're all in the exact same house, he is the one who's the face of it, while the others have aspects from the other houses. In addition to Neville, there's also the addition of Luna Lovegood. I love Luna as a character. She adds the idea of whimsy and gross to the group. She's the one who consistently tells them that their point of view and what things could and can't be possible is so stagnant that it's blinding them to the reality. That's something that's a consistent thing throughout the Harry Potter story of what you believe could be true might not be. She's a consistent call out to that, and she's a very kind person who helps the characters throughout a lot of things. Also, she has some of the best lines in the book. I'm just saying, we miss out on so much in the movies. Meanwhile, Ginny rounds out this group of 6 and the Silver Trio by being this very powerful and cool witch. Once she gets over her crush on Harry, she actually becomes a very well-rounded and developed character as she is growing beyond just being the love interest. At least that's how she was in the books. Yeah, I'm gonna make that Weasley's Got Hoed video later on. Just saying. It's gonna happen eventually. I just have a lot of other video ideas. But Harry's not alone at any point in the story, even though he wishes he could be. Even when his friends aren't around, he has mentors and other people to help him. As Harry said, he did everything he did with help. All main characters do. While Katniss necessarily did not have a consistent team, but she had allies and mentors throughout the series as well. And Luffy, idiot protagonists, automatically have groups to back them up and keep them alive. And Luffy's no different. He has the Straw Hat Crew. Each of them have goals and ambitions beyond themselves, and each of them have usefulness and character traits that balance each other out. Whenever a character or person is needed on the crew, for example, Zoro and Luffy needed a navigator because neither of them have any skill at navigation. They found Nami, despite her protests. When they needed a ship that's bigger than just the two boats that they found and or stole, they found Usopp, who's also a very skilled sniper who happened to have connections to get them a ship. Then when they needed an actual cook on the crew, they found Sanji, and he joined up despite Zoro's protests. When they needed a doctor because Nami got sick, they found Chopper. Despite them believing at first he was just going to be emergency food, he's an amazing doctor. It goes on in a very, very linear thing. If you want to predict what member is going to join the crew next, just look at where they're needed the most and what character they meet is going to meet their needs. Each character has different personalities that help mesh well together. Zoro and Sanji are consistently at each other's throats and roasting each other on a personal basis that the other will do things just to spite each other. While Nami and Robin are consistently the only two characters with common sense on the crew, and Robin is kind of like Team Mom, always supporting everyone, while also giving them freaking heart attacks with her dark humor. Usopp is very, very scared of everything. Despite his want to be a great warrior of the sea, he's consistently letting his fear get the best of him, pointing out to others when a situation is very dire, or the others telling him to chill out, it's not that deep, even though they're in a near-death situation. Each of them have these characteristic traits that will balance out the others. And especially from a story and logistics points perspective of One Piece, Luffy ate a devil fruit. Devil fruits in One Piece are one of the main parts of power scaling, where you eat a devil fruit, and unless you have extensive research of what devil fruits do what, like their name and what they look like, you could be trading your ability to swim for an ability that just turns you into a jacket. I'm not even joking, that's an actual devil fruit power. A devil fruit, once you eat it, will remove your ability to swim. If you are in seawater, you will be unable to move or use your devil fruit ability to save you. Luffy had the devil fruit power, the Gum Gum fruit, and we learn more about this fruit and how the name that we heard about is a lie later on, but spoilers. But he ate this fruit and now he's a rubber man. And he can't swim. Doesn't do you much good if you're rubber and you are trying to be a pirate and you can't swim. But Luffy's not the only member of the crew that ate a devil fruit. But because he has crew members that aren't devil fruit users, he doesn't need to worry about ending up in the water and drowning, because the others will help him and get him out of there. Devil fruit abilities are cool and all, but losing your ability to swim for something that could just turn you into a wax man doesn't necessarily always gel well with you.
Alright.
But a main character needs people to balance them out. Sure, there's lone wolf protagonists, but think about this. Why are lone wolf protagonists? It's the entire idea of them being alone, consistently getting dragged into found families and being stuck with children as their adopted child. Am I wrong? Lone wolf characters, especially lone wolf protagonists, often get roped into other characters' business. Even if it's only supposed to be temporary, you get stuck with a character who's meant to be alone in a group. Why? Because no character is an island, and relationships is something else that makes us people. Having a character who has no one to bounce off of is boring, dull, and kind of makes for a lackluster story. Even if the character is just going from town to town solving problems, they are bouncing off of other characters and not just acting alone most of the time. In fact, a lone wolf story could end with them having people in their life that they care about, and not necessarily them being a lone wolf anymore. It's character development, what you gonna do? But a main character, in and of itself, is the person we're going to be spending our most time with. Therefore, we should at the very least have some way to connect and compare to them. Having a character to look up to and admire is very important in a story. You're not always going to have the main character be the favorite character in a story, but they should at least be tolerable. Give them attributes that are likable and fun. Don't make every single character just bow to the whims of the main character, because that's not how you write a story. Have the main character actually struggle, have them grow, have them fail, have them have flaws, have them make mistakes, but have them grow. A main character is only as good as the sum of the characters around them in the story that they are in. Therefore, I'm going to finish this off. So I'm going to leave that off today. For today's question, what's your favorite main character in a story? And if you're a main character in your own story, what type of would you be? Anyways, until next time, nice talking. I'm going to go fight the men.